Hi, fifth graders. We're here to do the next chapter of One Crazy Summer, chapter 4. But first, let's recap. Here's what we know so far. So, Delphine, Vanette, and Fern have arrived now, and Cecile has gone and gotten them from the airport. She's a little bit larger than life. This figure who sticks out is different than what they expected. Something else we know so far that Oakland at this time, remember it's 1968, they're experiencing protests and a larger civil rights movement. And we will find out soon, based on the blurb we read when we were orienting, about how the Black Panthers factor into all of this as the girls came to stay now with Cecile in Oakland. And the other thing we can remember from last chapter is Delphine often protects and cares for her younger siblings, which we learned in the previous chapters that we just read, chapters 2 and 3. And we're going to keep exploring that relationship with the sisters in this chapter. So this chapter, chapter 4, Green Stucco House. Big Ma said Cecile lived on the street. The park bench was her bed. She lived in a hole in the wall. You can't say stuff like that to a kid asking about her mother when it's snowing outside or pouring down raining. You can't say your mother lives on the street in a hole in the wall, sleeping on park benches next to winos. I didn't understand expressions when I was 6, that they were strings of words spoken so often that the strings fell slack. Your mother lives on a street in a hole in the wall, sleeping on park benches next to winos. Sounded exactly as Big Ma said it. When you're 6, you pictured your mother living on black and gray tar full of potholes, broken glass skid marks, and blackened gum, all of that overrun by cars, buses, and trucks. You squeeze your brain one way, your imagination the other way, and you see your mother peeking out of the holes of the crumbling abandoned buildings to stay dry when it snowed or rained. You see your mother sleeping on splintery park benches stained with pigeon poop and a smelly toothless wino sleeping next to her. When you're 6, you wonder why your mother would rather live on the street in a hole in the wall and sleep on park benches next to winos than live with you. Even though I'd finally figured out that these were expressions and not the plain factual truth, I expected Cecile Johnson to, at the very least, be bad off. To be one of those Negroes living in poverty, as the news often put it. I expected I'd have to nudge Vanetta and Fern into knowing better when they asked for all the things that we had at home, like Mr. Bubble Bath, and extra helpings of chicken and ham, or banana pudding on Sundays. When Cecile slowed her man-sized steps, tore off her big hat, her scarf, and her dark glasses, we knew we had arrived. We followed her into the yard and down the walkway, and I stared at her, 8 thick braids of unpressed hair, pencil shoved in the plate of her ear, and then I joined my sisters, taking in the shock of her house and yard, the place where she lived. "This your house?" Vanetta was the first one to put our amazement into words. To begin with, the house was covered in peaks of hard green frosting. Stucco, Cecile called it. She said she applied the stucco herself. The green, prickly house was surrounded by a dried out but neatly trimmed lawn. All right, so they finally arrived here at Cecile's house. Let's take a note of the setting. It's not exactly what they would have expected. Maybe there's a lot more to Cecile than we've learned so far, other than that she abandoned them. We don't really know much about her. So here we are at this strange green stucco house. The house was a rectangular concrete slab with a roof over it. A carport, she said. Just no car. Okay, so next to the green stucco house is this carport, but there's no car. On the other side, a baby palm tree sloped toward the sun. That palm tree was as out of place as the stucco. That's how I could be sure it was Cecile's home, all right. Yeah, so everything's out of place here. Everything's a little bit off. Even though Cecile said that the house was hers and not to worry about how she got it, that wasn't enough to suit Vanetta. "Big Ma said." I kicked her before she could go further. She knew better than to repeat Big Ma's words, and if she didn't, that kick should have smarted her into knowing better. Whether Cecile heard Vanetta starting to insult her or if she saw me kick her second child, she didn't let on. She just said, "Come on," and put the key in the door. We walked inside and looked around, and I expected to see writing on the walls, wavy, colored hippie writing all over, since she was free to do what she wanted in her own house. I expected to read strings and strings of words tapped out from her pencil onto the walls. But the walls in Cecile's house were clean, painted a yellow beige, and had no writing. Still, my flashes of memory popped before me. Flashes of Cecile writing on the walls and on boxes, flashes of paint smells, Papa painting over her pencil marks, flashes of Loud, Papa and Cecile, angry talking. When I'd asked about it, Uncle Darnell had said that they'd fought over Cecile writing on the walls all the time. Oh, so here's a little bit of the problem. We're hearing a little bit more about how her family history went back when she was in Brooklyn with her mom and her dad living together still, back before Cecile left. Let's keep our eye out for any more clues or info like this as we read on. It's important that we keep track of these little snippets of the past and these little memories that Delphine has of her family. Your room's in the back, bathroom's across the hall. The daybed rolls out. That should be enough for all y'all. And for anyone who doesn't know, a daybed is like a small kind of bed that's almost like mixed between a bed and a couch. Fern folded her arms, holding Miss Pattycake by a tuft of her patchy yellow hair. We need night beds. We sleep at night. She's kind of not missing the point there about what the daybeds means. I could tell Cecile didn't know whether to be annoyed or amused. She looked at all of us, wondering not only who we were, but what we were. Fern didn't notice the scrutiny. She turned to me. I don't nap in the daytime. I'm in 2nd grade. Never to be outdone, Vanetta said. I'm in the 4th grade. Cecile said, I didn't ask for all that. As I expected, Vanetta's feelings got hurt because she was always sticking herself out on stage for everyone to see her. Still, Vanetta hadn't been kicked enough. She whirled around in the living room like a dance recital fairy, whirled around on her heels, taken in the clean walls and curtains and beaten up sofa, a few stacks of books and not much else, landed and said, Where's the TV and everything? Vanetta was too far from me to nudge or kick. Cecile dropped Fern's bag on the floor and started muttering, I didn't send for you. I didn't want you in the first place. Should have gone to Mexico to get rid of you when I had a chance. Didn't seem like she was talking to us. She didn't even look at Vanetta, or Fern and me. She kept talking, muttering about Mexico, throwing her Matahari disguise on the beat-up sofa. I didn't send for you? Wow, that's a really loaded statement about Cecile's character. When she's muttering this and, kind of going off about how she didn't even want them in the first place, this is revealing as a character, as a mother. This is like her true colors coming through. Before, when she just abandoned them, like they didn't know anything about her or what led up to that, but now here she is confronted with them and saying stuff like that I didn't want you in the first place. That would be very upsetting, and that kind of tells us the kind of person Cecile is. Our mother wore pencils in her hair, dressed like a secret agent, had a stickly, prickly house, a palm tree when no one else had one, and clean painted walls instead of the writing I remembered. Now I got why our mother ran away. Our mother was crazy. Come on, I said, let's see the room, put our stuff away. Vanetta and Fern raced down the hall, pushing to be first. Cecile yelled after them, but they were too excited to hear from her. I came in after them, a bed with a brass headboard and arm rails and a blue cover, a dresser, a goosenecked floor lamp with a glass bowl in the shape of a half moon. It was more furniture than she had in the living room. We can't all fit on this one bed, said Vanetta. I raised up the blue cover and found the other bed underneath. Come on, help me pull it out. We all latched on and pulled, and the bed rolled out under the stair step of one bed below and another above. I said, sure, she could have helped us. Surely should have, Fern said. I sleep on top, Vanetta called. No, I sleep on top. Fern did her best Rocky the Flying Squirrel leap, arms outstretched to belly onto the bed. Vanetta followed, and they rapped into wrestling. I let them. They hadn't had a good fight all day. It's kind of interesting. Again, as a character, Delphine always seems to know what's best for her sisters. Like she's like letting them fight here. So she definitely really takes on this motherly role, even when it's like something like bad. She knows like, oh, it's good for them. They need to get that out. Need to get their energy out. After 6.5 hours on the plane and I'm keeping up with Cecile, I figured that they could use the recreation. They took turns getting the best of each other, but just before crying time set in, I pulled one off of the other and said, you better sleep on top. That's enough. There's enough room. Why'd you get the bed all to yourself? Vanetta cried. You're not that big that you need a bed all to yourself. I was big enough to give up a full view of the world on the 727, and big enough to outsmart my sisters at every turn. You can come down here with me, I said, scooting over so I wasn't claiming the whole bed. I don't care. I'm staying on top, Vanetta said. Me too. She kind of tricked them into getting what she wanted because she knows them so well. We looked around in the silence at the walls, the dresser, the gooseneck floor lamp with its half-moon glass bowl. It certainly wasn't much. Vanetta wanted to say something. She had that look. Spit it out, Vanetta, I said. Yes, spit it out, Fern said. Vanetta cut her eyes towards Fern, to me, and then she said, Delphine, what do we got to do with Mexico? That one had also thrown me when Cecile said it. Should have gone to Mexico to get rid of you when I had a chance. I didn't rightfully know what that meant, but I was all my sisters had. So I said, that's where babies go. That's where women go who don't want their babies. But why Mexico and not Queens, Fern asked. Because Queens is too close, I said as if I knew. And then I added, showing all my age and wisdom, that they buy babies down in Mexico for rich people. They both said, oh, even in this hard part here, Delphine has to act like a mother, even though she really doesn't know the answer to this hard question. I didn't want to say Big Ma was right. Cecile was no kind of mother. Cecile didn't want us. Cecile was crazy. I didn't have to say it. All right, any predictions that we had maybe about Cecile? Like, oh, maybe they're going to get there and she's going to be like kind to them and sorry and, you know, a warm and a welcoming presence. Any predictions like that we had have changed. And we see that this is like a different kind of person we're dealing with here. So far, she's proven to be an unkind mother. But let's always leave the door open for, we never know exactly if she'll change or if there's a backstory here. So just from what we know, though, it's not looking good right now for Cecile as a good mother figure. Maybe Delphine will step up, as we've seen already. All right, so we're going to hang on here and just, let's see. I'm just going to recap. First, let's summarize who was in this chapter and what new things did we learn about them. Same girls, mother. We learned that Delphine's the motherly figure that she always has been, and we learned about how the mom had set up the house for them to be there. What seems important? What are we learning about the problem? Well, not only does the mother not really take such great care of them, kind of just leaves them to their room, she also said that really hurtful comment about, I didn't even want you here. And how does this chapter connect to what we read earlier? This chapter is continuing on as we learn about the relationship of the girls and the relationship of how Cecile interacts with them. She says that quote there, I didn't send for you, didn't want you. What does that line reveal about Cecile? You can pause and think about that answer there. What kind of person or what kind of character are we thinking Cecile might be based on that line? All right, see you next time for chapter 5. Bye, everyone.